Hello, Keith Rucker at VintageMachinery.org. Well guys, we're going to put together another odds and ends video for you guys this week. Got a lot of stuff that's come in the mail over the last couple of weeks since we've done an odds and ends. Also want to give you guys a shop update because I've been doing a lot of work in the shop the last couple of weeks, working on the shop, trying to get some things finished out in here. And I'm really pretty happy with how things are looking in the shop, so I want to share some of that information with you as well. So let's get started and talk about some viewer mail that's come in. Well, in a recent odds and ends video, I shared with you guys some transitional planes and wooden planes that were sent to me from John Krupp out in California. Well, John's been at it again. He just sent me another package here with 6 more of these Stanley transitional planes. And this is kind of exciting to me because I love hand planes. And again, you guys haven't seen as much of my woodworking. I've got quite a collection of old Stanley hand planes, or hand planes in general, many of which are Stanleys. But one thing I never have really got very many of are these transitional planes. Most of my planes I consider more user planes that I like to use in my woodworking. And not that these can't be used as user planes, but I've just concentrated on more of the metal planes in my own, putting together a collection to use. But these are exciting from a historical standpoint, for me anyway. In the background these transitional planes is in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Before then they had mostly used all wooden planes. And eventually they developed a metal plane, an iron plane. It was made completely out of metal. But most craftsmen, or at least some craftsmen at the time, just weren't convinced that they could go to those all metal planes. So companies like Stanley kind of came up with what they call this transitional plane, where they have the features, the adjustments, and the everything with the blades as far as the frog assembly and everything that's on the metal planes, but they mounted them on the wooden planes. And these were called transitionals because in theory they were transitioning from wooden planes to metal planes. And there was a whole collection of these, or a whole bunch of these different planes that were made over quite a period of time. Now what's interesting in this collection that I've got right here is that there's kind of 3 different types of planes here as far as age and styles that Stanley made. They have what they call these Liberty Bell planes, and they're called the Liberty Bell plane because they actually have a little Liberty Bell cast in them. But this is a more simple design. It has a height adjustment of the blade where you can fine-tune the height, but you really can't adjust the lateral movement on this without just moving it by hand. A little bit later on, they came out what was called the Bailey patent, and the Bailey patent has this little lever back here in the back so that when you loosen this plane up like that, you can slide this back and forth and you see it shifting that blade. And that allowed you to fine adjust and get that blade where it was cutting parallel with the bottom of the plane. And you look at these 3 planes right here, they're all basically the same size plane, but this is the Liberty Bell, and it was kind of the first edition. They made these on past once they came out with the Bailey, but this was at that time a cheaper plane to buy. This was more of a premium plane. And I need to get my Stanley book out that I have that really talks about the ages of these to really look at them and see what types they are. But I noticed that these 2 are pretty much identical, except one of them has a little tab out here in the front, the other one doesn't, that says Bailey on it. And again, it's the Bailey patent. And same thing over here. These 2 are kind of look to be identical, but one actually says Bailey on the front. They both have the Bailey lateral adjustment in them, and then this is a Liberty Bell plane of roughly that same size. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about these. Again, I don't have or didn't have a lot of transitional planes in my collection. Now I do. All of these, one thing when you typically see these transitional planes in the wild, you go into flea market or estate sale, they're usually just roached out. The wood just doesn't hold up to weather, etc. So unless they've been well cared for, they're usually not in great shape. These are all in pretty nice shape, all things said and done. There are a few apologies on, the horns on the handle here, but, that's not a huge deal. From a strict collector standpoint, maybe so, but from the ability of using the planes, which is what I'm more of a user than a collector, at least I like to tell myself that. It really doesn't matter. These are all in good, usable condition. The big thing is on the bottom, the plane is good, and you have a nice throat here where that comes out in the bottom that's not all messed up. And these will all make good user planes. So anyway, really excited. John, thank you so much for sending these along. I really do appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to tuning some of these up once I get my wood shop set up in the back and doing a little planing with them. Thanks a lot. So one other thing I have to mention that John sent along with the hand planes is he wrapped these up in these shop rags. And I think he told me in an email or something before that he has a pretty big stash of these. I think his family was had a car dealership or something, maybe back in the 60s, if I remember right. I don't have it right in front of me. But he ended up with boxes of these shop rags, and he kind of used them as packing material. And that's nice packing material. These are all good shop rags that will be used around here and probably reused and recycled. So thanks for sending along some useful packing material as well. Thanks, John. All right, in no particular order here, the next item up here comes from Ron Belair, who's up in Edwardsburg, Michigan. And Ron actually sent me a nice little email back when I was doing some electrical work and offered to send along this book right here. So this is a copy of the National Electric Code, the NEC code this is a 2014. Ron is an electrical inspector up in Michigan. He worked as an electrician for years and kind of retired from that job and actually went back to school, did some more work, got his certification, become an inspector, and now goes around and does a lot of electrical inspecting work up there. And I made a comment about some stuff in code, and I have access to the electronic version of this online, but guys, I am an old school book guy. I like to have a book. I like to be able to look something up in a book rather than looking at it digitally on a screen. I'm just old school that way. So this is very much appreciated because when I'm doing electrical work, as I've said before, I'm not an electrician. I worked for an electrician back in my high school days, and I'm fairly knowledgeable in the trade, but I am by no means a certified electrician. And it's nice to be able to look things up and make sure that I'm doing things up to code, because we do want to make sure we're up to code. So anyway, Ron, thanks a lot for this. This will be a great reference, and I'm going to put it over here in my library out here in the shop because this is where it'll be used. So anyway, thanks for sending this along. Very much appreciated. All right, next item here. Got a little order that was sent along from a viewer, and there wasn't really a note or anything with it. I'm just going to say it comes from Missouri. How about that? So anyway, well, this is a little Eagle pistol grip oiler. It's got some tape on the end to keep it from running out. So anyway, these are always handy. In fact, I was just thinking the other day, I was working on that little nut over there for the lathe nut. And I said, I wish I had a little pump oiler that I could put some cutting oil into. A lot of times I brush it on, but I was kind of needing to squirt it up into that hole. So anyway, I was actually going to be on the lookout for one of these, and lo and behold, one shows up in the mail. So this one is probably destined for cutting oil to use around my machine. So thanks a lot, very much appreciated. So next, got some more books. These are from Ron Mayland, who's up in Coal City, Illinois. And Ron told me he had these, and they needed a new home and wanted to know if I was interested in them. And these are basically a collection of 4 books called Ingenious Mechanisms. And they have all kinds of just interesting mechanisms in them. Kind of a reference item or whatever, but the reversing mechanism, overload relief mechanism, or overload. I'm reading it upside down. So anyway, just all kinds of different mechanisms. It's a 4-volume set. These were, published. When were these published? It says copyright 1930. This is obviously a newer printing than 1930, at least I would think so. But anyway, it's a fairly old book put out by the Industrial Press. So anyway, some more nice reference materials and some more books for the library. Love books, so thanks a lot, Ron. So up next here, got some more books again. So this package here came from Dennis Stevens, and Dennis sent me a note a little while back, particularly about this book right here, Principles of Farm Machinery, 3rd edition. I think this is from sometime back in the 70s. Book's in excellent condition, and he sent me a nice little letter kind of explaining about this. So he said when he got out of college, he got a job working for Simons or Simmons, I've heard him pronounced both ways, that makes all kinds of saw equipment, saw sharpening, saw blades, all kinds of saw stuff. And anyway, he went to work for this company, and he actually sent me along some literature, care and use of circular saws, saw sharpening and knife grinding in sawmills and circular sawmills and their efficient operation. So he sent me those, but he made the comment that at some point in his career, they were looking at branching out into making some items for agricultural use, for farm equipment, coulters and blades and knives and stuff for farm equipment. And he kind of had to go back to school and do a little bit of studying up on that. I think eventually they ended up not going into that, or it wasn't successful, ended up going back in a different direction. But he had gotten this book on Principles of Farm Machinery, and he said it's been sitting in his library for years and thought I might enjoy it. And also sent along some saw blade literature as well. So again, thanks a lot, Dennis. Some of this stuff right here will probably end up being scanned and put on my Vintage Machinery website. I think we may have a section there for Simons or Simmons. Again, I've heard it pronounced both ways. But anyway, thanks a lot, Dennis. And as long as we're doing books, this is pretty cool as well. So this comes from Mr. R. Ashman, and I don't have my email. I remember him sending me an email, but he is from New Zealand and sent along 2 items. One of these is a Niagara Machine and Tool Works, tool and machines for sheet metals, Buffalo, New York. This book, let's see if I can find a date on it. Well, I don't see a date on it. It's catalog number 50, 2nd edition. I'm guessing, just looking at what's in here, that this is probably from 30s or 40s. But anyway, it's interesting to me that this comes to me from New Zealand. This is a catalog that was published here in the United States in Buffalo, New York, ended up going all the way to New Zealand, and now has made the trip back to its motherland. And anyway, back here in the U.S. And this right here is definitely going to, again, end up, I'll get this scanned and put up on the website at some point in time. But it has all kinds of basically sheet metal working equipment in here. Very interesting. And then this is really cool as well. This is... let's see, the Richard Ashman. He left me a note. I forgot about that. So Richard Ashman. But let's see, this is the Engine Man's Master Key. And this is an interesting book as well. So, and it's got a date handwritten in here of 1942. And basically what it says, a handbook for all in charge or connected with steam engines, pumps, boilers, mining machinery, and suction gas plants. Illustrated with 111 engravings. Also 399 questions and answers on subjects related to examinations for certificates of competency in Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, Tasmania, New Zealand, and SA. South Australia? I don't know. So it looks like Australia and New Zealand. So back in the day when these guys were running equipment to basically go to the next step in promotions or whatever, they had to take an oral exam. And it was usually just a bunch of questions and answers. And they had a bunch of these books. They were often called catechisms, where they would ask the question that would be asked on the exam, and then it gave the answer. And it was basically reference material, study material. I have several of these related to steam But this one's interesting to me because it actually comes from Australia and New Zealand. Specifically, it came to me from New Zealand, so very interesting. Thank you, Richard, very much for sending these along. These will both definitely be appreciated, and I'll treasure having them in my library. So got another international viewer mail item here. This one comes from all the way from Great Britain. And Mr. A. Umpley, I believe is how you pronounce that. And he sends along a molding plane. And this is specifically a round plane, they called it. It has a round on the bottom. These were sold in sections of hollows and rounds, so you basically had this, and there would have been a matching plane that had the exact opposite of that. And these were used for making custom moldings, short runs of moldings. And most of your cabinet makers, carpenters, etc., in the late 1800s and even into the early 1900s would have probably had at least a half set, if not a full set, of hollow and round planes like this, just because when they were doing their work, they needed to make a quick molding instead of going out and firing up a machine that has the knives ground to a certain profile. They would just make them by hand. So anyway, this is a pretty cool piece. You know, interestingly, I used to have a pretty complete set of hollow and round planes back when I was more into my wood planes, and somebody decided that they needed them a lot worse than I did, and offered me a pretty substantial amount of money for them, and I ended up letting that set go, and I've kind of regretted that over the years. So this is pretty cool. So let's see, maker on this one, it was made by M. Wilson, 75 Clayton Street, Newcastle is the maker's mark on there, and it also has some marks on here from who owned the plane. Let's see if I can read that. They kind of double stamped them. It's hard to read them. Looks like G. Subsons. G-SUSBONS. Suspens. Anyway, that was another thing. A lot of times on these old wooden planes, you'd have had a maker's mark, but then whoever owned the plane, they would stamp it with their own personal stamp who had it. And often these planes would be handed down to different craftsmen over years, and there'd be multiple owner marks on them. But anyway, that's kind of cool. Nice piece of history. It's in excellent shape. Anyway, very nice to have. Thanks a lot for sending it along. So another book here. This one came to me from Bill Lee, who is up in Lummi Island, Washington State, up in the Pacific Northwest. And what he sent along was a book titled Practical Instructions Related to the Construction and Use of the Steam Engine Indicator, basically on using specifically the Crosby indicator. So a steam engine indicator was a mechanism that was used to actually kind of look at a steam engine, see how it was running in time, et cetera, et cetera. It was a fairly complex engineering item that was used, and this is basically a book all about it. It would kind of plot out the stroke of the steam engine and so forth, and you could adjust that timing using these indicators. And having an indicator and using an indicator is something I've always wanted to kind of mess around with. I've seen some indicators at different sales or whatever, but I've never come across one that I really thought was complete. I've always seen pieces and parts. They'd be in a box, but they were obviously missing parts. But anyway, it'd be cool to go out and try to set one up and use it. And having a good instruction book like this will definitely be handy. So, Bill, thanks a lot for sending this along. Another nice book for the collection, for the bookcase, and it's in excellent condition. Thanks a lot. I was thinking for a minute it was a separate person, but these were also with that, and I remember that now. Bill sent along several other items. This is pretty cool. It's in there. This is a little tool for separating Morse tapers. So, I've got a set of wedges that, you would just drive down into the little piece to separate them out. This is a wedge that you stick down in there, but instead of having to hit it with a hammer, you just pull this handle, it's spring loaded, and it kind of pushes that wedge in there. So you can just stick this down in there, pop, and out goes your Morse taper. Pretty cool. I've never seen that. It's called the Tang Master, made by Brevet, B-R-E-V-E-T, made in USA. He also sent along, this is actually a pretty handy little item. We've got one out at the museum. It's not quite like this one. This one's pretty interesting, but this is a gasket cutter for cutting out circular gaskets. And you know, if you're ever working on something, you need to make a round gasket, or you got a trammel point. This looks like it's made to go on a brace and bit. And then there's two adjustable knives here that kind of slide in and out. You can put them at whatever thicknesses you want. And you would put this down on your gasket paper and just spin this around, and that knife blade there cuts that gasket, and you'll end up with a gasket. And you can either have one cut or two cut, depending on if you're making just a round disc or a round disc that has a hole in it. Usually you use both of those together. So that is something handy. I use the one out at the museum quite often when I'm working on doing restoration work, because sometimes you just need to make a custom round gasket. And this is something else that's pretty cool in here. This is a little drill index. Actually, it's a drill and tap index. So what you got here is in the middle, you have different drill sizes. So it goes from 1/2 inch, down in, looks like 16th increments, 7/16, 3/8, 5/16, 1/4 inch, whatever. So that would be the body size. And then you have here the drill that you would use for a tap for both a fine and coarse thread. And then you have a hole for the actual tap. So you have the drill body, you have the coarse and fine taps, and then the drill size to drill for that tap. So a nice little drill index. I've got several drill indexes that I like that have everything separated out by both numbers and fractions, but in this case, specifically for doing taps, I could see this would be really cool to have it set up where you have all your tap sizes, all your drills for drilling the tap, as well as the clearance, have it all in one place. So pretty cool little item. Thanks, Bill. So this is a pretty interesting piece, pretty cool piece. And this comes from Robert Barden, who's out in Coronado, California. And this is a handmade tool that I believe he said was made by his dad. He said his father used these calipers in the shop where he made and repaired violins. He also had a more modern pair that he made with spare parts that were actually taken from a Norden bomb site, World War II era bomb site. But anyway, this is basically a set of handmade calipers. You got a little gauge in here, and he probably would use this on a violin to go in and measure the thickness of the wood. It's got a little adjustment screw in here where you can adjust this. So as he was shaping probably that inside of that, the soundboard in that violin, he would use this little handmade tool to go in there and measure the thickness of that. So anyway, very interesting. It's nothing terribly fancy, but it's actually a pretty cool tool. It's just a couple pieces of wood that were carved out here. It's got a hinge in the back. It's got a little kind of a dowel here that I guess keeps this from shifting side to side. And there's just two wood screws here that are ground flat on the end. And you could adjust this screw to adjust the thickness up here. So you can basically use this to just check that wall thickness and shoot for a certain thickness that you were going for. So anyway, pretty cool tool, pretty neat piece of history. I'm going to have to keep this note with it because it was just interesting. So in a previous odds and ends episode a couple of times back, I featured these two decimal equivalent charts that were sent to me by Kevin Stollard up at Don's Auto Parts in Virginia. And I got a lot of questions from you guys out there saying, hey, I'd like to get me a decimal equivalent chart like that. So I've actually been in touch with Kevin, and they sell these through his business there. They actually print these out and put them on. These are on metal, little metal pieces. They come in two different sizes, 18 by 12 and 24 by 18. He sells the 18 by 12s for $20 a piece and the 24 by 18s for $30 a piece plus shipping and handling on those. But if you're interested in these, I will put Kevin's email address down in the comments below. I'll just say it's donsautoparts1968@gmail.com. You can email him for more information on doing these. He says he normally just sells them blank. He did these special for me and put the Vintage Machinery logo in the back. I have given him permission to, if he wants to, if anybody out there wants to get one with my logo on it, that he can make those and sell them. I'm not making anything off of them, not asking to, but I know some of you guys specifically were interested in ordering some of these. But if you're interested, get up with Kevin Stollard at Don's Auto Parts and just send him an email, and I'm sure that he can work something out with you. So anyway, I just wanted to share that because I had probably 15 or 20 comments and as well as emails about ordering these. So anyway, feel free to get in touch with Kevin if you're interested in a custom decimal equivalent chart. All right, time for a little shop update here. I have been really busy the last week or two trying to work on just kind of finishing out this side of the shop. We kind of left it back about Christmas time, and there were lots of things I wanted to do to kind of finish getting some trim work, etc., put up in here, just finishing things out, and so I can just move on, etc. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been working on that, particularly in the evenings. I was off Friday this week from work and spent pretty much about 12 hours straight out here. Over the weekend, I was kind of tied up. I had some visitors in town. It was Easter weekend. We had family events going on, etc. So I didn't get a lot of time on Saturday or Sunday to work out here, but we did get a lot of stuff done, and I want to point out. So one thing I did is I rearranged this in the shop again, and hopefully this will be the last time. I've put my surface grinder kind of up against the wall facing the front of the shop. I've got my big Baldor grinder up here as well as my drill grinder. I'm trying to contain my grinding equipment in this area. And last year when I was out at the Barzy Summer Bash, which by the way is coming up again in June, toward the end of June, Stan Zinkowski over at Barzy. I'm making the trip out again, really looking forward to it. So if you guys want to head out to Barzy, you need to go check out Stan's YouTube channel, Shaden HKW, or his Facebook page for the Barzy Summer Bash. But anyway, last year when I was out there, Stan was kind enough to give me a curtain, a big industrial curtain that my plan is I got to get a track for it, but put that in here. I think it's a 20-foot long curtain, like 8 or 10 feet tall, I can't remember, but my idea is here is when I'm in this area grinding, I can kind of pull that curtain around and keep my grinding dust and everything kind of contained in this area. And this is going to work out pretty good. The surface grinder is really literally my next thing to work on. It's back together. It's running. I've had it under power. I've had it checked out. Everything works great. I've got to get it. We just put it back down on the ground. I got to get this leveled. And then we got to come in here and grind the bed, get the magnetic chuck put on here. I got some electrical work to do with that. I'm changing out the rectifier from the old one that was in here to a newer one, etc. So I've got to use this surface grinder for an upcoming project. So this is going to be the next thing on the agenda. You'll also note, you probably already noticed, I kind of got this green metal down here behind me. In fact, let me kind of zoom you in and show you that a little bit. In fact, I'm going to come over to a different part of the shop where you can see this a little bit better. But this is something I've been talking about for a while. I wanted to get some metal, kind of a metal wainscoting around the shop. And my original plan was I just wanted to get some metal roll or whatever, 3-foot tall or wide metal, and just roll it out and screw it up on the wall. My thought being, for number one, just some protection, really all for protection. But if I'm in here working, grinding, cutting with a cutting torch, welding, etc., because this is a wooden building, this will give me a little bit of protection. So if a spark gets up against this metal, it's not going to catch the whole place on fire. Yes, I still have some exposed wood in here, but it's greatly been minimized by this down low. And it also looks nice. I couldn't find, I really wanted to go with this green just to kind of give a contrasting color. I couldn't find any just plain metal that was in that color. I actually even talked to the people that made roofing, but they wouldn't sell me a roll of it, et cetera, et cetera. Well, I went into a little restaurant one day here in town, and I noticed that they had done exactly this with some metal roofing. I said, I like that. So all this is a Galvalume metal roofing, and I just laid it down on the ground and put it around the whole shop. And I really, really like the way it looks. It actually turned out nicer than I thought, and I think that this looks better than my original plan would have looked. I kind of like the ridges in there. It makes it a little bit more rigid, but it also it just makes it look nicer. Came back in here, put some trim on there to kind of match the trim up around the top. And I really like the way it looks. You may not, but I do. So I guess that's all that matters. But anyway, I'm really excited about that. I've still got the south wall in here to get done. We're probably a little over halfway done getting this around. And anyway, we've still got a little bit more work to do there, but I got a lot of that done. So something else I'm really excited about is, and I had mentioned, I think in my last odds and ends, I was looking for some good industrial shelving to go in here. And I found this stuff on Craigslist. This is actually some backroom shelving that a gentleman down in North Florida was selling. I got what I think was a pretty good deal on it. I think it was like $75 a section. It's 10 feet tall, came with 6 shelves per section. I actually got a few extra shelves as well. But anyway, I ended up getting 6 sections of this. This is 3, and I've got a couple other places I'm going to put some in the shop. But it's really good heavy-duty shelving here, and you can see I've already been getting things out here organized. I've got a lot of storage containers, etc., that I have collected over the years. A lot of the stuff I actually had out at the museum. Down here, I've got my drill indexes, so letters, numbers, fractional drill bits. We got taps, end mills, and small reamers, all in these little Hewitt boxes. I got another one down here for taper shank drill bits up to 1 inch. Down here in the bins, the little plastic bins, these are also taper shanks up to 2 inches. And I got basically little 4-inch wide by 18-inch long containers here that the drill bits just fit down into. So I don't have all of these full yet. I got quite a few holes in the 1 inch to 2 inches, but I've got a slot for every one. And basically, I've got 32 bins down here that are marked, and each one of them have 2 different sizes. So I'll have these organized by 1/64 of an inch, basically. But each bin has 2 different sized bits in it. This is a old card catalog that a viewer gave me, picked up last year, I think, coming back from Arnfest, so they've got in the Atlanta area. And what I have in this is horizontal mill cutters. So these are all wheel cutters, and again, I got them organized, 1/8 inch, 3/16. So basically from an 1/8 inch thick to 1 inch thick by 1/16. And you open this up, and I've got horizontal mill cutters in here. These little these are card catalog filing cabinets as well. I bought these down at, where was it? The Moultrie Swap Meet, yeah, a couple of years ago. Found a guy that was sold these for like $5 a piece, and I got like 6 different sets of these. And again, I have horizontal mill cutters. I have things organized. So I got involute cutters, roll mills, large wheels, miscellaneous shell mills, radius mills, cove mills, slabs, bevels, nosing, spline, etc. So when I go looking for a particular cutter for my horizontal mill, I can now kind of come over here without having to dig through a big, huge stack to try to find things. Got tooling here. These are micrometers, tap and die sets, etc. All kinds of nuts and bolts in these bins, just miscellaneous other stuff in here as well. But really trying to get all this stuff organized where I can find it, and I got some more shelving units that are going to go in here as well. Been getting a lot of emails, a lot of suggestions on shelving. I think I got it under control now, thank goodness. And like I said, I just got lucky. This popped up on Craigslist, and I went down and was able to get some. So there you go, guys. A quick shop update for you. Like I said, I'm really excited to be kind of getting this into the shop finished out. Yes, there's still some more work to do in here. I've got another scraping class coming up, I think the second week in May, and I really kind of want to have this in the shop, at least as far as the building part goes, pretty well knocked out by then. Of course, I don't know that I'll ever have it completely finished, but just trying to get that part done so that I can really concentrate this summer on working on some projects, working on some machinery, etc. Probably the wood shop in the back, we really basically got to do everything that's been done on this side back there as far as ceilings, walls, the whole 9 yards, and get it set up as well. My plan for that is, quite honestly, I'm probably going to wait till fall to really kind of get back in there. At least that's my thoughts right now. Mainly because I got stuff that I need to finish in here. I really want to get some of this machinery knocked out. And like I said, I've got projects that we need to start working on. And then two, doing the ceiling work in there, I don't want to be doing it during the summertime. When you get up in the top of this building in the summer in here, it's hot. It's 95, 100 degrees down here at ground level. You get up to, 10 or 12 feet up in the air, and it gets exponentially hotter the higher you go. So we're going to probably wait until things cool off in the fall and try to get back there and start working on finishing out the wood shop. I'm anxious to get my wood shop together, but it's just going to have to wait. So anyway, that's where we're at now. Quick shop update, viewer mail. That's going to be a wrap. Thanks for watching.